Good morning, everyone. If you can hear me, type in good morning. Morning, Andrew. Hi, Nav. Morning, Marie. Hey, Oscar. Owen, what's up? Reese, Stephen, Ritu, good morning. Kai, what is up? Nav, Julia, what is up, my friends? Alam, good morning. Hannah, Sonia, Shing, this is so cool. It's so cool to see everyone. Welcome back. We're doing Logic Part 2 today. Andrew, I believe, typed, is there a quiz today? Of course there is, and I said so in my little blurb already. So you've got that in the week-by-week breakdown. Today we're going to finish with the quiz. So Navdeep, what's up? Sumdish. So here's what it's going to look like. So we're going to keep practicing. The first thing I want to do is a brief warm-up and a recap. So what I'm going to do, since we have a quiz at the end, I'm basically going to do the quiz with you as a warm-up. All right, so what we're going to do to warm up is I'll do exactly what's going to be on the quiz. Hey, what's up, Sangcho? And so we'll start off by warming up our permissions mainly. The permissions obviously string together to accomplish a greater task. That is, how to derive a conclusion from premises. But they're broken into individual steps. So you can think of it like a cartoon. You know, cartoons, well, now it's all CG, but back in the day, you would draw one frame, and you would draw another frame, and then you would draw another frame, and the succession of that would kind of give an illusion of movement. You can think of the permissions as being whatever licenses the transition from one frame to the other, or kind of like if you think of a comic book strip in a newspaper, right? You're moving from one state to another, and between each pair of squares, if you want, you've got between each state of the comic book strip, you've got a narrative that's gluing it together. In our case, you've got the permissions gluing them together. So we'll warm up and we'll do a little recap together. And then after that, you'll have a clear sense of what the quiz is going to be. The quiz is going to be at the end of class. As you know, I don't, script these things right down to the word, so I don't exactly when we're going to end, but when we're going to end, we'll look at the clock, the same clock that you saw when we started. We'll take something like maybe a 5-minute break or so. We'll make a nice round number that's where the math is easy, and we'll all agree on a start time, and then what we'll do is we'll say goodbye. You can go stretch your legs and go to the washroom, and then the quiz will start. And the quiz will be available to you on our main Moodle page, and it'll last 15 minutes. I'd like everyone to go see our main Moodle page right now. Good morning, Ariana. Scroll down. I've put invisible all the stuff you don't need. Keep scrolling down. Can you see a section that says Logic Quizzes? If you can see that, type in yes in the chat bar. It says Logic Quizzes 5% will be visible after class. So everyone go have a look at it now. And if you can see that, let me know that you can see it. Super. All right. Well, that's where the quiz is going to be. So at the end of class, when I send you on your way, the quiz is going to appear there. It's already there. It can just a little function, and we'll set the timer on it. You'll have a 15-minute timer. And so let's say we decide that the quiz starts at, let's say, 12:10. Then you'll have until from 12:10 to 12:25, let's say. And it'll look just like the warm-up that we did. It's multiple choice. You will have 5 questions, each one worth 1 mark each. And that is it. And you'll be graded instantaneously. So once the quiz is over, you'll have your results on Moodle. So that is it. Not once you're done, but once the entire quiz is over, you'll have your results on Moodle. Is that clear, everyone? Does that seem like a plan? If you're good to go, tell me good to go. And if you have a question about the quiz, not so much about the quiz content, but about the quiz structure, let me know. Ask your question, right? I'm glad. I want to clarify that right away, but we'll practice a little bit. It'll become much clearer. So let's do our brief warm up, right? Ariana Rice, are we able to ask a question from the homework? Yeah, that's what we're going to do today, Ariana. We're gonna work on all that. So if you did the homework and you got a question, that's going to be a great time to do it. Let's warm up first, and then we can take your question, Ariana. That's fantastic. And that's always the ideal, right? If everyone's done everything they're expected to do. And so we'll do our warm up, and then Ariana, you can ask your question over here, and then we'll look at the homework a little bit. And then I want to start transitioning and tell you a few little nuances that we didn't talk about last time. And again, look at the idea here today is practicing. And remember, we had that chess argument. I want to end with that. That's going to be like a big scary one, right? So I just want to give a sense of what this can accomplish. So let's do our brief warm-up. And the warm-up is going to consist just in reminding ourselves what our 5 permissions are at first. Double cut. Double cut may be inserted around or removed from any graph on any area. Erasure. An evenly enclosed graph on an unshaded surface may be erased. Now, Peirce talks about evenly enclosed and unevenly enclosed. So just to remind ourselves what exactly that means, if I have, actually, let me use my block here. If I have a space like this, let's say, right, the area in white where we start off on the sheet of assertion, that would be area 0, right? So that'd be the starting point. That would be area 0. That'd be area 1, and that would be area 2. I prefer to talk about unshaded, shaded, and then unshaded again. But when he talks about an evenly enclosed graph, right, that would mean in this case 0 and 2. So erasure applies to the white spaces over here. So if I were to shade this, let me have some fun shading this, right? If I were to shade this over here, you can imagine the shading reverts back to white once you have a cut within the cut, because that's negating. A negation basically is affirming, right? That's what you would get. So erasure applies only, and I've written it here, right, on the unshaded surfaces, on the unshaded surfaces. So this is vitally important, right? Erasure applies to the unshaded surfaces. And that's something that if you ought to know by now, if you were able to do the homework, clearly that presupposes it. Peirce talks about evenly enclosed and unevenly enclosed, and the convention that he uses that the sheet of assertion is the 0 starting point. 0 is an even number. Just a reminder to everyone, 0 is an even number, and then 2, 4, 6, and so on. 1, 3, 5, those are uneven numbers. Now, the uneven numbers are important as well because that's where insertion is going to apply. So again, let me just clear all this. It's going to be much easier. Insertion, the inference rule of insertion, right? Same idea. If you have a cut, oh, this is too fat. Let me just undo that, right? If you have a cut and you have a cut within a cut, right, then insertion is going to apply over here. So insertion, it applies over here. That will be the shaded space, right? A shaded space over here. And any graph can be scribed on an oddly enclosed area. So this would be 1 over here. That's an odd number, right? So 0, again, 0, 1, 2, that would be an oddly enclosed number. And when we say any graph, we mean any. Any graph may be scribed there. So anything you want, you can put in there, right? It doesn't matter. And so that's the rule of insertion. Let me just pause for the little clarifications I gave about erasure and insertion in the spaces where they apply. Is that clear, everyone? If that's clear, type in clear. If you have a question, type your question. And again, we're hitting the ground running because we spent a lot of time on this already, but today we want to take it to the next level. And just a quick poll from students. I feel personally that shaded and unshaded is a little easier for me to track than odd and even numbers. What do you think? Do you prefer the odd and even distinction or the shaded and unshaded distinction? To talk about where these things apply. So far, everyone seems to be agreeing with me. Well, that's cool, man, because that's what I do in my solutions as well, right? I don't know about you, but you saw my solution sheets for this week's homework, right? Would you agree it would be completely dizzying if you had a situation, although we will have to do that on Big Blue Button today, but like imagine this, right? Like if I do this, let me just, oh, that's not a good circle. Let me just undo that one. Here we go, that. And then let's say here, I'm effing it up. All right, if I had to ask you to track that, do you agree that gets a little confusing after quite a few, right? It becomes a little like I could keep going, right? It becomes a little weird. So I feel like the shaded, unshaded stuff, that's why when I do my solutions, and they're homemade, by the way, you have no clue how long I worked on this stuff. It's just to make it clearer for you as a student. Iteration, we talked about that a lot last week because that requires a lot of table setting. Any graph scribed on any area can be iterated either on the same area, that's like sideways iteration is what I called it, or within any nested cuts. That is, if you're going down the ladders. And then de-iteration, any graph whose occurrence could be the result of iteration may be erased, all right? So those are our 5 permissions. That, my friends, is the logic of the future that Peirce has given us. We're going to work in his wonderful world. He's given us a space where we can do logic and deliberate, and it's coming from the mind of a genius, and it's very strange and at the same time extremely elegant. If you've done other systems of logic, you know how this is different. So please put on your VR gear and your masks. If you're in this white space with me, if you can see white, type in yes. If you put on your VR gear and we're back in the white space sheet of assertion, type in yes. Everyone can see this? All right, cool. Let's start going. Let's do some practice here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up in the same manner that the quiz is going to look like. So let's imagine a situation where I have this, right? And I'm going to type here some claims. And it doesn't matter what these claims stand for, by the way. So at this stage, we don't really need to always go back to language to remember what these things stand for. Presumably A stands for a claim of some sort, B stands for another claim, C stands for another claim. And what we're going to do is we're going to ask the following question. We're going to ask ourselves, how do I go from this to the following? And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a version of it that's slightly different, right? And I'm going to ask you what permission I use to go from that to that. Now, again, shape doesn't matter. All of these things are unimportant. Shape, position, all of these things don't matter. So if my circle doesn't quite look like my oval and my A doesn't quite look like my my B and so on, right? All right. So right now they're identical, right? So everyone can see those are identical. The shape, position, and so on, these things don't matter. But what if on the right, what I had was this? What permission would I have used to go from the left to the right? Type in your permission and then don't click send. Type in your permission, but don't click enter yet. So type in the permission that I used to go from the left to the right. Type in your permission, and when I say so, once everyone's done typing, because I don't want people seeing other people's answer, right? When I say go, then you can press the little chevron or arrow. So I'll wait till people are done typing. I can see when people are typing, which is a really neat feature. All right, click enter. Looks good. Looks good. All right. This is my way of verifying also where you're at, right? If you practiced, if you're good. All right, let's do. And the quiz will be exactly this. This is what the quiz is going to look like. I'm going to show you one state of the graphs, another state of the graphs, and I'll ask you which permission was used. In fact, not only which permission, but there'll be a sixth option. Is this not permitted? Right? So I'll ask again. Yeah, all graphs, Shen. All graphs, yeah. That's what, and because that's what we're doing, right? Entries would have been weird beyond a certain point, so that's why I'm switching to quizzes when we're doing the logic part for our wonderful tour of Peirce's system. Ariana works. It's not structured like the HW. What's HW, Ariana? Homework. No, because that'd be too much. Like, how could I do that multiple choice, right? Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and it's actually easier than the homework. You understand? Like if you did the homework, this quiz is going to be a breeze because I'm only going to do pairwise. Like I've over prepared you for the success in the quiz. The quiz is just to check to keep you honest. I'm not trying to put you down, right? I want everyone to get 5 out of 5. So it's going to be easy. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no worries, Ariana. We're going to get to that. Yeah, no worries, no worries. And Owen asked, this is the identification of parameters versus actually doing it for the homework, which was really hard. Yeah, I mean, remember, this would take a little more practice if we weren't to go to the next level. But the homework it is hard, but it's also fun. But we're going to take it slowly. Like today is just a quiz, just to make sure you got that. So we're going to do it again. Does that sound good? We do another one. The warm up's not over, but just people are kind of surprised because you're probably expecting a much harder quiz. But look, I'm a prof who wants to see you succeed. I'm not gonna you worked on this one class. It's like, all right, here's the chess argument, right? Derive that. It's like, good luck, man. Look, and one of the things that I do also is when I do derivations in existential graphs, I look at the clock. And then I ask myself, how long did it take me to figure it out? And look, man, if it takes me 4 hours to figure something out, I'm not going to ask you to do it in 15 minutes, right? So like, it's just not realistic. So if it takes me 4 hours to do something, it's a take home that would take you 2 days, right? So there's no way, like, I'm monitoring this stuff. We want to be able to do this in 15 minutes. And so that's why the quiz format is what it is. And so now I'm going to give you 6 options. One of the options is going to be, in addition to insertion, erasure, iteration, deiteration, and double cut, one of the options is going to be not permitted. Okay, everyone? So is that clear? You have 6 options now. So in the quiz, you'll also have 6 options. If that's clear, type in clear. All right, 6 options, including not permitted. That's going to be an option. All right, here I go. I'm about to do something. I'm going to try again. I'm using so many tools on Big Blue Button. Type it in, but don't press enter. So insertion, erasure, iteration, deiteration, double cut, or not permitted. Press enter. Perfect. You're good. You're good. All right. Let's do this again. Oopsie. I'm supposed to... actually, let's go for this one. Type in your answer, but don't click send. Don't click enter. Enter. Press enter. The correct answer is not permitted. Not permitted, right? So what did I have a moment ago? Let me just write that letter in very pale gray, just so that we're clear that it was there. Let me make a ghost of a letter, right? I had C over here, right? This washi, I have my comparison point on the right side, so I don't even have to put my ghost. All right, so I have C over here. C is on a shaded or unshaded surface, hypothetically. I didn't shade it, but shaded or unshaded? Is erasure applicable on a shaded surface? No. And if I were to use, because the other answer that I saw was the iteration, why can't I use the iteration? Why couldn't this be the product of the iteration? I'm missing a master copy, right? I'm missing a C, right? It couldn't have been inferred by iteration, right? Exactly. So let's say, for instance, the situation would be very different. Let's have some fun now, right? If I had a situation where I had this, let me put a C over here, right? And then I had this. Okay, so now let's do another practice. With permission did I use? And don't press enter till I say so. I press enter. Deiteration is the correct answer. Deiteration. So remember, the question is, how did I go from the left-hand side to the right-hand side? That's the question. Yeah. It's sideways deiteration, right? I removed one example of it, right? So one copy of it, right? So long as you maintain one copy, you're still good to go. Just as you can iterate it and keep generating more copies, right? Yeah. No, Ariana, you got confused. That's why I'm adding these red boxes around, right? We're just comparing from left to right. No worries, I could see where you would be confused. So let's keep these red boxes over here. And now, however, what if I did the following? So now we're going to do it again, all right? We're going to do it again. Notice, compare the left-hand box, right-hand box. Type in your answer. Insertion, erasure, deiteration, iteration, double cut are not permitted. Type in your answer, don't press enter. Press enter. Good. Good. That's right, not permitted, right? Because I'm on a shaded surface. I can add whatever the hell I want. All right, now let's have some fun. Let's do some more. And so far, is this helpful, everyone? If it's helpful, type in helpful. If it's not, say no. Just because I want to gauge where people are. Cool. Okay, I'm good, because that's the goal, right? All right, type in your answer. And don't press enter. Press enter. Insertion. Guy, you had it. Insertion. Insertion. And you don't just have to add a standalone proposition. Notice it also this. Okay, let's do this again. I'm going to do it again. All right. We're going to do another one. So let's do another round of this. All right. So let me make it a little better. All right. Type in your answer. How'd I go from the left to the right? Type in your answer. Don't press enter. How'd I go from the left-hand state, state 1, to the right-hand state, state 2? Press enter. The correct answer is insertion. Correct answer is insertion. What have I inserted? I've inserted not K. I've inserted not K. That's it. Right? Remember what earlier? Right? Hold on, Owen. I'll read what you have to say in a second. Remember what I said when we were going over insertion? Any graph may be scribed on the oddly enclosed shaded area. You can literally add anything right. That's exactly right, Ariana. Exactly right. Owen writes, it is wrong to be thinking in terms of what rules is as opposed to what it is. I find that easier. I'm not sure what that meant. Sorry, Owen, I'm just too dumb. Coffee hasn't. Actually, I should be drinking more coffee. If that made sense, that's cool. If it's helping, Owen, is that what you're saying is it works well? Then keep doing it, because we're pragmatists here. It's like it works. Just whatever you told yourself. Yeah. And if this could be boosting your results in the quiz, that's why I'm doing that, right? Because Papa Bear don't want to put you down, right? That's not the idea. Sunji says insertion feels almost like a cheat code. Right? And it would not be a double cut, because what do you need, right? What do you need for a double cut? You need 2 cuts plus, like, okay, look. Let's do it again. Nav, hold that thought. Let's do another one. All right. What permitted this transformation from left to right? So which rule, or if it's not permitted, tell me not permitted. Don't press enter yet. Press enter. One rule. Alan, one. Insertion. Alan, what am I saying? I inserted whatever the hell I want, and what did I choose to say? It's not the case that it's not the case that K, right? Vera, that would be too strong. Vera says it's always allowed if it's insertion. No, because only on the shaded surface, Vera. Do you see that? Only on the shaded surface. Yeah. I'm allowed to say whatever I want to say. Okay, cool. There's a space in gray there where I can say whatever I want to say. I've got the microphone. So, okay, it's a town hall meeting. Justin Trudeau hands me the microphone, and what do I say? I think it's not the case, that 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 global warming. I'm allowed to say that on the microphone. What the hell did I say? Forget it. Everyone's lost me by the third negation, right? But I'm allowed to say whatever the hell I want to say. Same thing. Once you're on that gray space, you've got the microphone, you do you, including whatever the hell you want to say, right? Including this. You can totally do that. And presumably you'd have a reason why you're saying that in the midst of your transformations, right? There's a reason. There'd be some strategic reason why the heck you'd put that in there, right? Is that clear, everyone? If that's clear, type in clear. If you got a question, ask your question. I know Shan's asking a question. Yeah, anything added on the shaded surface insertion, that would be the right thing to say. Yeah, that's correct, Shan. Oscar writes, is this always insertion before double cut? You don't need to do this in 2 steps. So let me be ultra clear. Oscar, that's a great question, right? What we have right now is a 1-step transformation. What you have on the screen in front of you is a 1-step transformation, not 2 steps. I need to do it in 2 steps because I got to draw the bloody thing. But you plop that in. You plop that in. That's it. The thing that's, you played the game, Play the Difference, right? The thing that's different on the right, you just plop that in. The one thing. That's one. Yeah, you got it. And I could have said, again, I could have said whatever the heck I want. I like what Nerf insertion looks like, a Nerf ball. Andrew writes, all right, so let's just go claim by claim. Curtis says insertion is directly counted by erasure. No, that's not right, Curtis, because I couldn't erase. Do you agree? Okay, so let's just stop. Once I put my Nerf ball on the right-hand side here, right, I can't undo that. You realize that? Once it's there, I'm screwed. I'm stuck with it. Because look, can I do this? What you're about to see on the right, can I erase my Nerf ball right now? Like, can I do this? Let me just grab something equivalent of can I undo it because I thought it was ugly? I can't. I'm stuck with it. You can't erase in the shaded area. So think really hard. Yes. So you see that, Curtis? You can't undo it. So you can't apply, erasure inside the shaded area. So what you said, insertion is directly counted by erasure. That's not quite true. You don't get kind of that yin-yang balance is just not there. Yeah, there's no way to get rid of it now. So on the one hand, you have lots of freedom. Put in whatever you want. But once you put it in, you're stuck. So like, let's say on the right-hand side right now, right? Over here, I've got this. What do I do with it? I'm stuck with it. Moving forward, because presumably there's more going on after, right? Other states will happen. I'm stuck with it. How could I ever get rid of this? What would be the only way for me to ever get rid of this, if A then K claim inside the shaded space? How could I ever get rid of it? What would I need to get rid of it? Since I can't erase it. You can't. You don't have the materials. I'd have to construct, like, if I really needed to get rid of this, right? Here's what I would have to build. I'd have to build somewhere around here, something like this. Right? Let me just draw it. If I somehow managed to construct this outside of it, then how could I get rid of my original thing here with the fat arrow that I don't want here? How could I get rid of that? Then I could deiterate it because I'd have the master a copy outside, and then I could decide to erase that whole thing. I could invoke erasure and get rid of that whole thing. But think really long and hard, because how in the world are you going to be able to construct this now? The one that I put over here, right? That's like, how in the world are you going to get there? You could. You might have the materials to do that. Sundish writes, I can't insert something that creates a cut that encloses the pre-existing variables. No, you can't do that. That's for sure. So Sundish, let's try that. All right. So Sundish, let's do that and try that. So let's just erase everything and let's show an example of that. And I think then we can finish our warm up there. Let's imagine I have this situation over here. Let's go back to what I had just because it was easy. This is my kind of go-to thing. I've got everything I need to practice all sorts of different moves. So for target practice, this is great, right? Let's imagine I have this. And I want to find out how I go from, and again, I'm going to give myself a frame just so we understand that we're moving from one state to the other. So that's state number 1. How do I go from that to state number 2? And again, bear with me here. Papa Bear is drawing as quickly as he can. How do I go from that to that? That is the question. And here I go. I'm going to give myself something that looks like what I just did. All right, let's reconstruct. This is getting a bit cluttered. Let's reconstruct this. Okay, now I'm going to ask the question, and we're going to do this the old-fashioned way. So you're going to write your answer, right? All right. Five permissions is an option. A sixth option is not permitted. Type in your answer. It is not permitted. I'm big time denaturing what was said earlier on the left-hand side. This had negated C. It was negating it. According to this, C ends up being negated or asserted after my manipulation. It ends up being asserted. I can't do that. I've completely denatured what was being said. This is no longer truth preserving, right? I can, however, okay, well, actually, let me not tell you. Let's actually do it again. Let's do this now. Type in your answer, don't press enter. And so these we'll talk after. Just do this one and then we'll talk, see if that clarified it. Type in your answer, don't press enter. We'll give everyone a chance to type. Press enter. Insertion, totally allowed, right? I preserved basically everything I had on the left-hand side. Then I decided to give myself whatever the heck I wanted, and whatever the heck I wanted was this over here. Sumdish, type in your question. Is it clear, Sumdish? Because this was kind of like as a result of something you had mentioned. Yeah. And notice, right, this is, I think, getting clearer now. Let's do one more. Let's just do one more. All right, let me just do this. Let's do one more. When I say go, you can start typing in your answers. Go. Which inference rule or not permitted? And don't press enter. And I call them inference rules. I should always say permissions, but I was trained in symbolic logic, so it's hard for me to undo that. I remember it's supposed to be one permission, right? So press enter. Not permitted. Not permitted. I'm essentially collapsing two rules, two permissions here, right? Those would require two steps. I could get there, you understand? Through a detour. I could get there. Yeah, I could deiterate, then erase. In that order. So this goes back, I think, to the comment that Ariana had written in that chat room, right? Look, in that order, I could do the following. Okay, so can I do this, yes or no? What you have on the screen from left to right. Compare the two cartoon strips. Can I do this, yes or no? Yeah, and I can do it by deiteration. And then that's the smart move then. And then you delete your master copy. Now you can erase your B. Now you can erase your A. You can do whatever you want, right? I can decide to erase my A. I can decide to erase my B and so on, right? But I need that master copy outside, all right? My friends, this is what the quiz is going to look like. Just take it step by step. It's not as hard as the homework, but I always over-prepare my students. So if you were able to do the homework, then you were good. Are there any further questions about the permissions? And then we'll go for Ariana's question about the homework. But do you have any questions about the 5 permissions? If you have a question, type in your question. If everything's clear, type in clear. And then we'll tick that box and move on. Is the quiz on today's stuff as well? No, Andrew. No, because I'd want you to have a week to work on stuff before. So, yeah, no worries, Andrew. No. Just if you can handle this, you'll be good for the quiz. That's it. Quiz is just like nothing too hard. Sundish writes, does double cut need a variable inside it? Yes. Okay, so And we could say a proposition, right? But that's cool. Yes, here's one thing, point of nuance, and then we'll get to Ariana's question, right? You can never have a situation like this. Oh, that's way too fat. Let me just do that. You can never have a situation like this. What does this say? Well, it says it's not the case that P and not what? And this is what I'm going to call an air bubble. I'm going to call this, right? Let me use another color just to show that I'm giving this a different name, right? This is what I like to call an air bubble, right? I like to call water bubbles and air bubbles. This is what I like to call an air bubble, right? You can't have air bubbles. No air bubbles. You can't have air bubbles. Like an unshaded circle with nothing in it. Can't have any of those, right? So if you're going to have something like this, there needs to be something in there, right? You can't just have an air bubble. Is that clear, everyone? I think air bubble is intuitive, so I think most people will get it, right? If that's clear, type it clear. If you got a question, ask your question. No air bubbles. And likewise, you cannot have a situation like this. And I just realized I have different sizes. Ooh, that's nice. I just realized I have font sizes. Ooh, that feels special. I'm moving up in the world, right? This would be what? This would be P and not anything, right? And this is what I'm going to call a water bubble, all right? And again, you can't have a water bubble, right? Hold on when I'll read that in a section, right? So, oops, that's way too small. So, no, way too big. My big font is actually not helping me here, right? No water bubbles, right? No water bubbles. You can't have this, all right? Is that clear, everyone? And when I'll read your question. No water bubbles, no air bubbles. Owen writes, the only thing I'm not 100% clear on is insertion. Would it be possible to one more warm-up on it? Yeah, I can totally do that. Let's just do the ban on air bubbles, complete ban on air bubbles, complete ban on water bubbles. Let's do one little iteration, insertion for Owen, and then iterations we worked on last week. Look at the rerun. That's a little too much, but yeah. Some of this, if it's just lack of preparation, I don't want to use precious class time for it, right? So just go back and work. That's all. Let's do this, right? Okay, Owen, imagine you have a situation like this. Owen, so far so good? All right. Let's say for whatever reason you need something in this space here. Oh, first of all, let's just call a spade here. That's this a 0. It's actually a meta language. Let me put it in a different color. 0, 1, or unshaded and shaded. Where does insertion apply? On the sheet of insertion or inside the cut? Insertion inference rule, Owen, where does it apply? On 1 or 0? Which space? The shaded or the unshaded? The 1 or the 0? The shaded. All right, cool. Throw some shade. All right, cool. What do you want to put in, Owen? Well, put in whatever the heck you want. All right, so I'm going to get creative on you. Anything. So I'm going to go ahead, right? Because remember the analogy I had used. If you're about to sign a contract and you know the first clause is something you're going to deny, it doesn't matter what comes next. Remember that analogy? If you're about to deny as a whole a contract that requires you to sign on to a string of conjunctions, it doesn't matter what comes next. If the first clause, let's say, if you want to deny Q, you want to say not Q, it doesn't matter what I put. So now I'm going to have some fun, and I'm going to insert whatever the heck I want. So watch me go, because I'm going to be real creative, right? Here you go, here you go, here you go, and I'm going to have some fun. Let's fill those up. Presumably all of this happened in one go. I have to obviously write it out, right? That was a C. There you go. And let's make it E over here just because. Owen, can I do that? People, my community of inquirers, can I do that? Can I just plop that in there in that shaded space? There you go. All at once. That's right. All at once. Plop it all at once. Exactly. Yeah. Owen, does that clarify things that put a nail in that coffin? Yep. Yep. And why can we do that? Because what we had was a not Q. We were negating Q. Q and whatever the hell you want, right? Yeah. Kai writes, you're not allowed to iterate on the sheet of assertion. Sure, I can. What would it mean to iterate on the sheet of assertion? Here I'm iterating on the sheet of assertion, right? And here I'm going to also, this is going to be really painful, but I can iterate this entire thing, right? So look, I'm going to have to redo this entire thing. I can totally do this. Give myself another copy to work with. And if I iterate, I got to get all my details right. I can't just, if there's a single change and place spot the difference, is this a good use of iteration when I went from here to here with my arrow? Is this a good sideways iteration? No. What am I missing? What's wrong? I'm missing that E. Crucial little E over here. I got to copy paste. It has to be a copy paste. You can't just decide to do whatever, right? So that would be an iteration. This would be an iteration. And keep going as much as you want. Keep going as much as you want. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Ariana, you had typed in something really intelligent. I'm going to go back to it. Tell me which homework you were looking at, what we're looking at. In the homework, the question is, if P then Q, it is the case that P, therefore it is the case that Q. Okay, so I'm going to retype what Ariana wrote. All right, here you go. Ariana, this is what you wrote. So in the homework, the question is, if P then Q. All right, everyone, let's practice on that. If P then Q. I'm going to open up the floor. Who wants to volunteer to type the first claim in the argument that Ariana's got? So Ariana wrote a small little argument here, right? And the argument is as follows. Actually, I'm going to put it on the board. Let me just put it on the board itself on the sheet of assertion so that we can see. And I'll put it in a different color. Hold on, and then I'll ask for my volunteer. Oh, it's true, I can't type. All right. If P then Q. This is what Ariana wrote. P, therefore, Q. Classic modus ponens, right? Can everyone confirm that what I've got in purple tracks what I've got in the chat bar right now? Before Ariana lists out her steps there, right? In the homework, the question is, if P then Q, it is the case that P, therefore Q. Confirm that I wrote that well, just so we just put that on the board. It'll be easier. All right, cool. Andrew, it's your turn, my friend. Try to use the oval tools if you can. Andrew, you've got the board. Write the first claim only, Andrew. So move your cursors out of the way if you're not Andrew. Let's let Andrew scribe the first claim. If P then Q. And then Ariana, this will be our way of figuring out if your steps were good, because you gave us some steps, and then Ariana, I'll let you do the transformation. We'll work on it together, and then you can do your steps and show me instead of telling me. Yeah, it's like show and tell. Showing is what we do in this class, especially for Peirce's logic is like, if you think of show and tell, it's all about show, not tell. Ooh, that looks nice, Andrew. All right. Community, has he gotten this proposition right? So let me just take out your privileges for a second. Has he gotten this right? If P then Q. Has he gotten this right? Yes, he has. Thank you. Good round of applause for Andrew. Awesome. All right, let me, oopsie. All right, let me now add the second premise. I'm going to add it myself. All right. Here we are, P. And this is all looking a little small. So I'm going to zoom in. All right. We have all of the premises of our argument. And the conclusion was what? What was the conclusion of this argument? It's a classic modus ponens structure. The conclusion was Q. So Ariana's job now is going to be to get us to Q. All right, Ariana, you've got the board. Get us to Q and tell us which inference rule, which permission you use. Type in the chat bar which permission that you plan on using. Let's do it one step at a time. Track this still by still. The iteration. Go ahead. Ariana invokes the iteration. Pay attention, everyone. And remember, Ariana used a fat white pencil to try to erase. Pause. Community, do we agree? Good use of the iteration. All right. This is now the new state of the graphs. Ariana, which permission do you want to use? Double cut. Go ahead, Ariana. You've got the board. Community, did she do that right? Ariana, bring it home for us. What permission do you want to use? Insertion, erasure. Go ahead, erasure. Community, did she do that right? What are we left with? What's on the board right now? What status is this Q? Q was what? In our argument, it was the conclusion. You did it. You did it. So Ariana, you did it. Way to go. Ariana says, would it matter if I did erasure before double cut? You mean if you would have erased the P before you would have the double cut? No, it wouldn't have made a difference. No, you end up with a Q and test it yourself, right? Don't take my word for it. It's like I consulted the tablets and I'm telling you, just test it yourself. Would you get to Q? Right? You would. There's more than one ways to skin a diagram. There you go. Yeah, exactly. My friends, let's take this to the next level. Let's have some more fun because this is fun. Are you having fun, by the way? I think this is fun. Confirm that this is fun. Like I'm having fun. I can't read your body language. My hands, again, moving around a lot, right? Because I love philosophy and I love this stuff. It's just really crazy. And Nav also has a question from the homework, right? Yeah, Curtis says he's done some symbolic logics. It's both familiar and new. Nav, what's your question from the homework? Actually, can you hold on for that question? Ask me the question first, and then we'll see whether or not we want to address it. Just go ahead and let me know what question you have, Nav. And then we'll see whether we want to do that or just put it on pause for just a couple minutes. It's the case that P, therefore it's the case that P. All right, cool. That's all right. We can handle that one really easily. All right, so here we go. All right. What permission do I use to go from this state? Well, actually, let me use a different color for my my meta language here, right? So let's again keep it in the same convention I had a moment ago. To go from here to here, what rule what permission, I keep calling them permissions. What permission do I need? Your question. None, I'm there. Nav, how do you get to where you already are? You don't, there you find yourself, right? So for those of you who've done logic, this is a big deal, right? But if Nav, have you ever taken formal logic, intro to formal logic? Say yes or no. Then I'll see whether or not this is going to give you goosebumps or not. Nav, have you ever taken intro to formal logic? But it says iterate on the answer key, and that's why I was confused. Does it say iterate? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. So, and you say no for the answer. Folks who've done symbolic logic, if I had a line over here, line 1, and it said P, right? And this was my premise. And in a derivation, I had line 2, and I had to infer it, right? Hold on. In a derivation, those of you who've done some logic, this will only last 3 seconds. I'm just talking to folks who did it. If I had this as a line, P, and it was a premise, and at line 2, I wanted to infer that P, in virtue of line 1, which inference rule would I have to use? If you've taken logic with me, you would know. Repetition inference rule. It's an inference rule. You'd bother saying, I'm going to hereby repeat this. It'd be a separate line just for you to say P again. In existential graphs, none of that applies. Right? So one of the reasons why you have these trivial transformations that aren't transformations, Nav, is because if you've taken symbolic logic, you'll realize how different existential graphs is from symbolic logic, precisely because in symbolic logic, this would require a separate inference rule called repetition just to do that. Whereas here, you just leave it be and you're done. Right? Same thing for conjunction, doesn't require a conjunction sign. So Nav, don't worry about it. Nav, does that clarify it? Does it say iterate? I'd have to see, but yeah. Well, are we going from 2 P's to 1 P or to 2 P's? Or could be that that's just you're done, but I'd have to have a look. But if you went from 1 P to 2 P's. Oh, so I went from, so Nav, what you're saying is this. That's a different story. No, you're not. Okay, cool. All right, well, I'll have a look. Could be that I'm wrong. Could be that I'm wrong. I'll have a look. Which I'll find it really easily. That's cool. Let me have a look right now. This is the first homework. Answer keys for question. What question was that, Nav? I'll scroll through the questions. Question 4. Cool. I'll do it with you so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Question 4. All right, question 4. Question 4. Premises, iterate, conclusion. Well, that's a different conclusion. What was the question that I had asked? Is that different from the question? Let's close that and let's have a look. Let's have a look at the question. Could be that I'm wrong. What do we do when we're wrong, Peirceans? If we find out we're wrong, what do we do? Do we lose sight? Do we lose faith in all of knowledge? Right? It's not the end of the world. It was question 4. Oh, well, then I could just change the question. You're right. So it is the case that P, therefore it's the case that P. Well, I could say just here, it's the case that P and P. All right, cool. Yeah. Yeah, no big deal. Thank you, Nav. That's amazing. See, Papa Bear makes mistakes because I'm human. There you go. You're right. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So either way, this serves as an interesting lesson, right? You don't need a permission to go from P to P. You would need a permission to go from P to PP, right? That you definitely would. And that would be which permission do we use go from here to here? Just so we can wrap that one up. Now, that was a small question. I'm glad you asked, and it caught a mistake. So, which permission are we using go from this cartoon to this cartoon box? Iterate, sideways iteration. All right, cool. Let's have some fun. Thank you, Nav, for asking that question. Let's keep our brains warm. Here are some premises. Here's the conclusion. Can everyone see them? If you can see them, say yes. All right. What is our premise? Well, we only have one premise. I wrote premises in the plural because I just have this default thing on Photoshop that I've built for myself, right? The premise is not Q, and the conclusion is it's not the case that if P, then Q, and it's not the case that not P, right? That's a long-ass conclusion, but there you go. All right, my friends, who's game to do this? We're going to do this together. We want to figure out how in the world do we go from here to here. That's the game, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build our graph so we can manipulate it. If you're willing to be the first transformer, you know where we're starting and you know the goal, right? Tell me in the chat bar if you're willing to try. Andrew's already volunteered. Let's see if we got another brave soul. This is our starting position. Yeah, Kai, go for it. All right, Andrew, you can jump in. I've got you on as a tag team partner on the ropes, right? So Kai can tap out. Kai, you've got the board. Move your cursor, everybody else, if you're not Kai. And maybe Sundish can go after. Cool. So Kai, tell us, first of all, which transformation you're using. Tell us in the chat bar first. Just so we know what to expect. All right, cool. You want to insert that in. Go ahead. So now we know. Just say insertion and then draw the rest for yourself. Ooh, that could be nicer. You want to do it again? There's a learning curve for that as well. Do it again. Try it in black and use the little circles tools. It's a little easier, I find. But do you. I just think it's much easier to type, man. But you can do it. You can do it. And Kai, take your time, right? Take your time. You just grab your type tool. You take your time. Because you're going to be handing it to Sundish after. You want to give something clean to Sundish. Kai, when you're done, you let me know that you're done. I think you got one more thing to put in there because you can't have an air bubble. This would be a water bubble or an air bubble now. You got a little bubble in the center. Not bad, not bad, not bad. It's tricky, isn't it, Kai? You have more respect for me now? No worries, no worries, no worries. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Kai. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to clean it up. No worries, man. It's really hard. It's really hard to do this. Let me zoom out because we want to keep track of where we want to end up. All right. So I'm going to redo what Kai did. All right. Just a little quicker and a little cleaner. So don't worry, Kai. I'm not dissing you. By the way, round of applause for Kai. Give Kai some love while I'm doing this because he totally deserves it. No, it's Q over here. And then Kai, you're going to confirm to me. Kai had invoked insertion to write whatever the hell he wants, and he decided to write to describe the following. And Kai, confirm please if I redid this well. Kai, that's what you did. You added the if P then Q or P and not Q. Okay, cool. All right, Kai, that's what Kai did. All right. Right now, I'm going to give myself some tools to shade this just because it gets hard to track, remember? So I'm going to give myself some tools. I'm going to make a kind of a fat line over here just to, this is gray, this is gray, all right? So just so everyone knows, this is gray, and this is gray as well, okay? Just a proto shade. We'll call this proto shade, all right? Now, maybe Kai took a wrong turn. We don't know, and the only way to find out is to find out. Sumdish, are you ready to jump in? Maybe he got you in a pickle, right? I expected a double cut first, but I can try it. Let's just pause and examine what Kai did. Sundish, I think you could be going on the right direction, so hold on. I'm going to keep you on the side for a second. I'll throw you in the ring when I need you. All right? Folks, let's look at this. If this was the current state, and our goal, if you recall, is to go from the premises to the conclusion, what could we do now? Can we undo, for instance, what Kai wrote? Once it's there, as far as the permissions are concerned, we can undo because we can always try, but can we undo what Kai did? Nope. We're stuck with what Kai did. So let's just feel out the diagrams for a second. We're stuck with this. Is this heading in the right direction? We're not quite where we want to get, huh? Wouldn't it be great? Do you agree? Wouldn't it be great if this Q was a P? We could just throw a double cut around it. We'd be done. Wouldn't that one be wonderful? Do we agree? Look at where my little cursor is right now, this Q right here. If that was a P, we just could throw a double cut around it and we'd be done, right? But it's not a P. It's a Q. Darn. 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 Is there a Q over here? There's no Q. How are we ever going to get rid of this Q? How are we ever going to get rid of the Q I've underlined? You need a master copy outside of it, right, Sundish? Can't work, huh? Could you insert a Q outside? No, Nav, right? Because insertion only works on a shaded area. On the outside is what? Unshaded area, white area, you can erase, but you can't insert. Suggestions, community. Suggestions. Double cut and then erase. All right. Vera says double cut and then erase. Vera, you want to show us what you have in mind? Say yes if you're good to go. Vera has in mind double cut and then erase. We'll try. Sure, let's try, okay? So Vera's going to try. Vera, take your time. Use the tools. Let's move our cursors out and let Vera do this. Take your time. Pick the black color. Pick a tool. You got a typing tool. You click and drag. And it's far harder than it seems. So we'll be very charitable with you. Don't worry. We all want you to succeed. We're collaborating. Vera thinks she has a sense that if we do a double cut and then erase, we could do something. And take your time. There's going to be obviously a learning curve, as with all things, because you need to build up those habits. I notice how Peirce was right so much about what it means to be a human and to unfold in time, right? We see the verification of what we read about in the first start of the semester all throughout, right? We guess, and then we follow on the consequences of our guesses. And so Vera's trying to do a double cut. Vera, are you done? Type in done when you're done. Okay, so Vera added, no, you tried, of course you did. So a round of applause even if you screw up, all right? So it's all good, even if you screw up, folks, okay? I want everyone to be supportive here. Vera added 1 cut or 2 cuts? Assuming that we seal the gap there at the top, right, which would have to be sealed, 1 cut. Is that permitted? It's not permitted. Let's do a double cut. You could do double cut, Vera. So for what it's worth, Vera's suggestion is feasible. I could do this, so I'm going to do it right now. Sorry. I have to grab my circle really well. Try this again until I get it right. All right. I could do this. What have I done? I've added a double cut, and now I'm going to add some much needed shading here because I'm going to get confused, right? Let me put my shading over here, my proto shade. I've added a double cut. I could totally do that. I could totally do that. The question is, does this solve our problem? That I could do. I could take the whole thing and add a double cut around it, which in this case, you know, I just want to show that it would be shaded. Okay, fine. What I've done is permissible, but does it move us forward? No, it doesn't really. Back to square one. Yeah, like it doesn't. We've given ourselves something, but it's not clear that that works. All right, so how about this? I'm going to undo, 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 undo. Sundish, do you want to jump in? Cool. All right, so what I'm going to do, Sundish, is I have a sense that where you might go. And so I'm going to just redo the graph for you so that it's a little closer to our original starting point. Here we are. And then Sumdish, then you can jump in and we're going to work together. And again, you folks, this is a dream come true. You're all cooperating extremely well. All right, Sumdish, tell us which permission you'd like to use, Sumdish. This is the premise. Type in your... Sumdish hereby invokes the double cut. Sumdish, take your time. Go for it. Community, we're going to let Sumdish do his stuff. And remember, this is a space where we learn. And we're not tracking making mistakes and that kind of stuff. It's all part of the process. When you're done with your double cut, type in done. Okay, Sumdish? Cool. All right, pause. Sumdish did the double cut. Was this a permitted transformation? Yes or no? Yep. Nice application of the double cut. Nice application of the double cut. Now look at our goal. Look at our conclusion. This looks like it could be heading in the right direction. Anyone want to jump in? Vera wants to exonerate herself. Vera, what do you want to do? Tell your inference rule. Only the person who goes in the ring gets to invoke their inference rule, Ariana. Don't tell Vera what to do. No worries. Follow Ariana. Do insertion. Vera, you've got the board. Shan, move your cursor. Tell me when you're done. Community. Let me give myself some proto shading here, right? Permitted or not permitted? Not permitted. I agree. This was not permitted. Not permitted. Oops, I undid too many things. Let me redo what Sumdish had done. So let me redo this whole thing. So let me retrace now. All right. Let Papa Bear retrace the steps. We had this when we started. This was the first state of what we had. Then Sumdish added the following. Sumdish invoked the double cut rule and did this. We agreed that this was correct. Let's add some proto shading to that so that we can see what's going on. This is shaded and this is shaded, right? And then Vera, in what ended up, I think, is going to end up being a productive mistake, and she didn't have the benefit of the proto shading, decided to do this. We can't do this. Let's get clear on why. Why can't we add a P where Vera added the P? Why can't we do that? It would have to be shaded, and this is unshaded. Yeah, it's not a shaded area. Cool. All right. Who wants to have a go now? Obviously, Oscar, go for it. Oscar, tell me which permission you're going to use. Insertion. Oscar, you have the board. I'll type done when you're done. This is going to be really fun. What did Oscar do? Is it permitted? Yes or no? Yes, right? Whatever the hell you want. I'm going to put some proto shade. Proto shade. We're getting close. Can you smell it? We're getting close. We're getting close. All right, so what do we have left? What do we need to do? Papa Bear's going to let you kids figure this one out. Insertion and double cut. All right, who wants to have a go at it? Put your money where your mouth is. Oscar, you're going to be pissed at yourself. You're close, but no cookie. You'll see. Just remember that comment. Who wants to have a go? Volunteer. Tell me if you want to volunteer, because I can't really tell what any of those rules mean until you actually do it. Sundish goes for it. All right, Sundish, the floor is yours. Actually, Sundish is going to figure this out, I think. I understand what you mean, Sundish. You're gonna end up doing it. Type done when you're done. Oopsie, that's wrong. Proto shade. This is what's really frustrating. When I press the undo button, what it does is it undoes what I did, not what you did, which is I just being aware of that. All right, so let me just clean that up. And Sundish, you had put a P in here, right? Cool. I just wanted to do some proto shading so we can see a little bit where we're at. All right, there's my proto shade. Folks, we're one inference rule away from winning. You see it? One permission away. And Sundish said, double cut and you're done. Who wants to have the privilege of double cutting? Sundish, you should have the privilege. You did it. Let's just pause for a second. I want everyone to see this because maybe I'm taking this a little too for granted, right? What did Sundish do? He iterated this entire thing. Can everyone see that? Type clear if you see that. If it's clear. He iterated the not P and he dragged it on a lower level. Nicely done, Sundish. Indeed. Right? And that's terrific. All right. So now we need someone. And Sundish, I'm going to give you the privilege to bring it home for us. It'll be very satisfying. Sundish, you've got the board. Go erase that double cut. Clear that double cut. And Oscar, what I said wasn't quite true. You did bring us home. There was a way out. Oscar, that was a good step. Sundish, that was also a good step. Yeah. Well, I'll show you another way of skinning this cat. I'll show you another way of doing this. Just I would have skipped a step. That's a nice, thorough, yeah. And isn't it cool? We're working together on this stuff. Isn't that like collaborative logic? Has anyone ever seen that before? Like, wow. And my shading, unfortunately, cool. My shading stays there because you can't touch my shading. So I'm going to remove my shading because I want the satisfaction of seeing everything done. So let me remove this proto shade here. Look at this. What do we have? We got exactly what we set out to do. Amazing. Well done, everyone. And notice how this is so cool. We work together on this stuff, right? Earlier when I said that Oscar, he did something great and he could have been a little more efficient still. Like instead, it could have been like this. So let me just show you in the solutions, right, what it could have looked like. So let me share the solutions with you for this, because this is part of your second handout of exercises, right? So let me show you the, which question is this on the second handout? It's the first question. Let me show you the solutions and what they look like. Let me screen share that with you. Second handout on existential graphs, and let me show this full screen. Fifth page. Can everyone see our starting premise? If you can see it, type in yes. R not Q. Remember R not Q? Cool. So I'm going to go step by step here, and you're going to see how this particular solution is different. But at the end of the day, if you get to the conclusion you did nothing wrong, you did nothing wrong, right? Double cut around the whole thing. So notice we go from here to here. So that's the first move, double cut. Next move, insertion. So in the space of the double cut, I plopped in a P, but not a not P. This is where I differed from Oscar. Does everyone see that? That's where we differed. Like I just made a slightly different change, right? I just took a P first, then I plopped my P over here in its pure form, just as a standalone P using iteration, right? And then I threw a double cut around the P. Then I threw the double cut around the P. So it's a slightly different sequence. And what I end up with is, nevertheless, our conclusion. Is that clear, everyone? Yeah. A little more efficient, right? But do we care? Like, no, we don't really care, right? Yeah, it is super cool. Yeah, it is super cool. And notice one of the things that happens, right? Occasional mistakes notwithstanding, and I would hope that the only mistake I had was at the really easy ones where my guard was down, because the other stuff I go over with a fine-tooth comb over and over again before I post it as solutions. The way up, you use a lot of scrap paper, you make a lot of mistakes, and that's a Peircean theme, right? You don't have crystal clarity. You just some Homo sapien figuring stuff out. Then you clean it all up, and it looks like this, and it looks like really nice, you know? But at the beginning, you don't know what you're doing, and it's not obvious, and that's okay, right? From a Peircean standpoint, that's perfectly fine. All right, my friends, there's a bunch of things I wanted to show you. I think we did some great practice. We did our warm-up, so let's look at where we are right now. Let's look at what we've accomplished. We did our warm-up together. We know what the quiz is going to look like. Now let's talk about claims that are bound to be true or false. Let me just show you a claim right now. I'm going to write a claim. And remember, we're inside this virtual space. By the way, when this guy's got his goggles on here, if you put a picture of Elton John here while he's got his goggles on, can he tell? Like I'm going to put a picture of Elton John over here, right? While he's got his goggles on. Can he tell that you did that? No, he can't tell. He can't check the outside world, all right? He can remember what the outside world does look like, but he can't really investigate the outside world. Well, when we go into our space, we can't remember, we can remember the outside world, but we can't actually verify. We're just testing the coherence amongst our ideas. We can't test their correspondence with individual facts. But I'm now going to make a claim. Is everyone ready? I'm going to make a claim, right? Here I go. I'm writing a compound claim, so it's going to be here I go. I'm going to say this. What do you think the chances are that when we remove our goggles, we'll see this? There's chocolate on your desk and there isn't chocolate on your desk. That's that claim. There's chocolate on your desk and there isn't chocolate on your desk. If we remove our goggles, will we find this in the world? No, it can't happen. And you know this can't happen. And you know this from the comfort of the VR space. You know this can't happen, right? And so we know that this claim is false. It's Schrodinger's chocolate. That's right, right? It's Schrodinger's chocolate. And let's not get into Schrodinger's cat, but Schrodinger's cat is just, it's a deficiency in knowledge. It's not a metaphysical, you know, see and not see at the same time. We're not supposed to look into the box, right? All right. And so this claim right now, if you say it's true or false, this entire claim, the whole thing, is it true or false? The whole claim, it's false. It's false. And you can know this with absolute certainty because it's committing what I'm going to call a contrapiction, right? So this is a contrapiction. And contrapiction is the word that I've coined to describe contradiction in existential graphs. I think you can read up on this when I published this proposal to call this contrapiction. I think there's important philosophical reasons for why we need a little more robust notion than contradiction. A bunch of reasons, and I won't go into them. But this is a contrapiction, kind of a play or on the word contradiction, but with picture, like a depiction. Right? So with the word picture, it's a contrapiction, and contrapictions are guaranteed to be false. And that's important for us. That's one way in which we're going to be able to test arguments. Here's another claim now, right? And once again, I want to ask you, is this claim true or false? It's not the case that you're going to have chocolate and not chocolate. Is that claim right now true or false? It's true. It's true. And we know, again, that it's true without taking out our goggles and checking whether or not someone put chocolate on your desk. Because whether or not someone put chocolate on your desk, you don't know. You got your VR gear right now, right? But as soon as you remove your goggles, you know, right, that it'll be true, that it'll be 1 or the other. It won't be both, right? It'll be one or the other. And one way of understanding that, by the way, and look at how I can do this, I can throw a double cut around this. Do we agree that I can throw, let me put it in a different color. Do we agree that I can just decide to manipulate this graph and throw a double cut around this C? Yeah. Well, remember OR. How does OR work in existential graphs? OR works like this. You put one option over here and the other option over here. And OR is like saying it's not the case that you're going to have neither. Well, notice what I've put here, right? Essentially, I have an OR, and my OR is one option is C and the other option is not C. So C or not C, right? So essentially, when I have this, what I'm saying is it's either the case or it ain't, right? So this is guaranteed to be true. If that went a little fast, just watch the rerun and meditate on that. Nothing much turns on this, right? And so this is the two poles, if you will, of the guaranteed to be true and the guaranteed to be false, right? A contrapiction is guaranteed to be false, and the negation of a contrapiction is guaranteed to be true, right? Is that clear, everyone? If that's clear, type in clear. Then we're going to do something with this. And if you have a question, ask your question. Cool. So far, Nav says, but wouldn't there be exceptions for that rule for contradiction? No, absolutely not. What sort of exceptions? For contrapiction, by the way, but yeah. Like what possible exceptions? Like if you think of, like at one point there could be chocolate and then you'd remove the chocolate and there's no chocolate. But if you say there is and there isn't and you pick out the same table at the same time, it's either there is or there isn't. There's no, you can't have it both ways. The rest is just like you're shifting the language. If you make a different claim, there's chocolate now, then there's not chocolate. There's chocolate now, then there's not chocolate. That could totally happen. But at the same time and in the same respects, there's no way. Now, try to, again, put that to the test. Propose a counterexample. If like there's an earthquake occurring and not occurring in the same place, but that could never happen, Nav. At the same time? Occurring and not occurring at the same place? That could never happen. If it's occurring, then it's occurring. And if it's not occurring, then it's not occurring. At the same place at the same time. Like earthquakes can happen in Indonesia and not Canada. Yes. But earthquakes can happen in Indonesia at the same time, at the same place, and then yet not happen at the same time, at the same place, right? That's not possible. And it's not possible in the strictest philosophical sense, right? It's not going to happen. Yeah, that's no worries, no worries. All right, so what we've done so far, right, what we did a moment ago together was we went from premises and we transformed them to a conclusion, right? This entire approach, doing this, these are called direct derivations. What you do is you directly derive the conclusion from the premises. You transform all of the graph of the premises into the graph of the conclusion. So that's what I mean by P and C here. Basically this, right? This was a direct derivation. We went from the premise to the conclusion, right? Another way of doing things that is called indirect derivation. So indirect derivation is going to be a little weirder and a little fun as well, and it gives you more tools to work with. One of the cool things that happens with a valid argument is not only are you compelled to accept it, so that is, if I go step by step by step by step, you have to accept my conclusion. Not only are you compelled to accept a valid argument, but also if you deny it, you will thereby commit a contradiction, or in the case of existential graphs, a contrapiction. So if you deny this, if you disagree, if you nod yes to this with your head and you nod no to this, that is, you deny the conclusion, yet the argument is valid, if you're nodding no here, you're going to end up shooting yourself in the foot. And that's called indirect derivation. Indirect derivation works like this. You take your premise, right? And then you assume the reverse of your conclusion. So you take your premise and you assume the not conclusion, whatever the conclusion would be. And then instead of trying to obtain the conclusion, what you try to obtain is a contrapiction. What you try to obtain is a contrapiction. So contrapiction. That's what you're trying to obtain. So you take your premises, you grab your conclusion and you negate it. In our case, you cut it, and then you end up with a contrapiction. Let's do it on here. Let's do this, right? I'm going to write our premise. So I'm going to write my premise over here. And again, check me if I make mistakes, because I might well. So you're going to have to help me out. This is our premise. Sorry, that's not our premise. It just goes to show, right? As soon as I said that, I started making a premise. And this is our, again, let me write my conclusion. This is our conclusion. Let me write it in a way that I can actually fit everything in as beautifully as I can before we start, obviously, messing it up. Let's see. And stop me once again if I make a mistake. P. I'm going to make a much smaller P here. P. Cool. And I need another circle here. Another cut. I'm going to give myself a Q. I sound like the Bob Ross of existential graphs. And I'm going to give myself a nice little P over here. Right? And he needs a little double blanket, so I'm going to give him a double cut. There you go. My friends, have I done that correctly? Do I have, is this the conclusion? Have I done the conclusion right? Did I do this right? Please check. Converge on this. Yeah, it looks like I did it right. All right, cool. All right, neat. Now, remember the strategy of indirect derivation. Instead of trying to derive the conclusion from the premises, we're going to assume the contrary of the conclusion. So what would that mean? If I want to negate something, do I put a single cut around it or a double cut? If I want to negate something, I want to say, not the case that. Single cut. All right, so I'm going to grab a single cut and I'm going to put it around this entire thing. Single cut. Can everyone see what I just did? I invoked negation. Well, it's not a permission. I'm just making a different graph to start with. Right? Now I'm going to give myself some proto shading just so we can see what's going on. So let me give myself some proto shading because things get a little weird. And I feel visually like proto shading for me is a lifesaver. I just breathe easier as soon as I see the proto shade because then I know what areas allow me to use what, right? Notice how the polarities change. Like once that corona here was, that little corona of double cut was white, but because now I've cut, everything is the polarity, if you will, is completely changed, right? So that's my double cut over here, right? Does everyone see that? I cut that thing. That's all I did. It wasn't a permission. I'm just starting off, right? I just cut this off. These are my starting materials, right? So what I've done now is I've given myself my materials to start with over here. So that's what I've accomplished. I'm going to try to do. I've given myself this. I've got my premise. And I've negated the conclusion. And now I'm going to try to obtain a contrapiction. So now we're going to play the game again, but the goal is different now. Now the goal is going to be, don't try to obtain the conclusion, try to obtain a contrapiction. Is that clear, everyone? Does everyone understand this new game? If that's clear, type in clear. If you have a question, ask your question. Now the goal is going to be, let's assume some person out there negates this conclusion. That is, they deny it, which reverses all of the polarity. So whatever was white becomes gray, right? And we added one cut around it. And now the goal is to obtain a contrapiction. Which contrapiction? Any contrapiction. So long as it's a situation, right, that looks like this. Contrapictions come in all shapes and sizes, right? I'm going to put them in red, actually, because it will kind of help to see it, right? Let's imagine I have a situation that looks like this, right? I have AB and I have AB. What's the strict term for what we're looking at right now? I just introduced the word. It's a contradiction. Yeah, AB exists and AB doesn't exist. And we know this can't be wrong. This can't be right, right? So, yeah. So that's the goal. Anything. It could be this too, right? So like, notice this. What are we looking at right now? Yet another contrapiction. This is a contrapiction, right? Just a contrapiction. Doesn't matter which kind. So long as we have a contrapiction. That's the goal. My friends, are you good to go? Type in good to go if you're good to go. We're going to do this. This is going to be another fun, collaborative effort. Same thing as last time. We only have our 5 permissions. So the mix of permissions doesn't change, okay? So same permissions. Now look and suggest if you're willing to go, type in yes, and I'll throw you in the ring. Curtis wants to go. Curtis, type in your permission first. What permission? Type in your permission, Curtis. Oh, as in you're volunteering or you're good to go? Who wants to volunteer? Type in volunteer if you're ready to volunteer. I'll take first come, first serve. Andrew volunteers. Andrew, type in your permission. Double cut. Andrew, God bless you. Go for it. You've got the board. Take your time. Try to do it as neatly as possible. Think of the next person after you. You know, like cleaning the cafeteria. You know, when we have a shared space, do your dishes. Andrew has invoked double cut. We'll let Andrew take his time and do this right. Looking good. Looking very neat. Looking very neat. And Andrew, while you're at it, can you clean my my shades? Whoa, Andrew. I think you're overdoing it. Can you undo that? Yeah. Okay, cool. Did everyone see that? Andrew did erase the double cut, but then it was like a triple erasure. It was a little too much. Andrew, can you erase my proto shades if you can? If it's too much to ask, I'll do it myself. Looks good. Take your time. Because notice that when Andrew removed the double cut, right, things changed a little bit. So Andrew's doing a terrific job, by the way. Andrew, that's really neat. That's really clean. You're doing a very clean job. Cool. And when you're done typing it on, I'll do some reproto shade. I'll reproto shade. Just type in done when you're done. Community, did Andrew, does that line need to go? Folks, does that line need to go? He did great. He removed the double cut. Did he? Am I wrong? No, I'm wrong. You do need to remove that cut. You're right. Sorry, I interrupted you. I got confused. You do need to remove that cut. You're right. Sorry, Andrew, keep going. Keep going. You do need to remove that cut. So I just referred myself back to the conclusion here. We're right back to the conclusion. So yeah, you do need to remove that cut. So we added 1 cut and he's removing 2. So you're absolutely right, Andrew. The shading has no inherent meaning. It's a psychological device, not a logical device, Arjun. Yeah, it's psychological, not logical. It's just to help our eyeballs. Yeah, no big significance. Yeah. Andrew, now you did it well. Type in done when you're done. Cool. All right. My friends, it was my mistake. I interrupt because I was busy tracking the little tools and the chat bar and everything. Do we converge? Did Andrew use double cut correctly? I believe he did. I believe he did. Who wants to go next? Type in volunteer. Remember the goal. We want to obtain a contrapiction. Who wants to go? Type in volunteer. We want to obtain a contrapiction. We want to obtain a contrapiction. Andrew's on our standby person. Someone be brave. What could we do to get a contrapiction? Reese, you're in. Reese, tell your permission. Type your permission first. What are you invoking? Double cut. Go for it, Reese. Reese has invoked the double cut. Reese has invoked the double cut. When you're done, type in done. Actually, I'm going to remove your Peirce right away. Community, has Reese properly utilized double cut? Agreed. Correct deployment of the double cut. Volunteers, type in volunteer. There's a couple ways this can go now. There's a couple ways this can go. We want a contrapiction. We want a contrapiction. I know, Andrew, you're good to go. I want another volunteer. Andrew's going to be my standby, but I want someone to double up. Surely we got 27 people in this room. We got a volunteer whose name doesn't start with A. Well, that would exclude Arjun. Who's the brave soul out there? All right. I guess I can't either. Oh, Ariana, no, sorry. Well, Ariana, you totally can. Arjun, Ariana, I'm so sorry. All right. All right, I'm sorry. I'm lost, sorry, no help me. Cool, Arjun, all right. Arjun has invoked the lost clause, so we're going to pause. Everyone, we're pausing for an educational moment. What's our goal now? So let's answer yes or no. Is our goal to try to transform the premises into a conclusion? Yes or no? No, that is not our goal. We're doing a different game now. We're doing a game called indirect derivation, right? A different way of proving an argument. And that different way consists in doing the following. So Arjun, whoopsie, crap. I just undid Reese's work. Again, I have to keep in mind that when I do the undo button, what it undoes is whatever the person did last. So let me just clean that up. Just clean that up. All right. Reese is beautiful. It had done a double cut. Yeah, done a double cut. Is that right, Reese? So we still had a P there. Cool. All right. So let me put that over here. All right. So Arjun, the game now is the following. The game is this. Instead of doing this red arrow, right? The game is not that. So let me just erase that. And again, if Arjun is lost, maybe someone else is lost. So we're going to all benefit from this. Bear with me. The game is not that. The game is this now. Oh, what have I done? There's no undo. So now I just undid that. The game is this. If I mistype one thing, then I pay the price for it. The game is this now. Now the game is assume that the conclusion is negated. So let me say that again. Assume that the conclusion is negated, right? And use that as your starting materials now. So what we mean by premise now, right, is not just not Q, but not Q and this negated graph here. So although the shading would have to change, these are now our starting materials, Arjun. So far, so good? Type in yes if that's clear, Arjun. These are now our starting materials. And now the game is we want to go from that, right? So these starting materials, we want to go from that to what? What's the goal? What do we want to obtain? People? A contrapiction. We want to obtain a contrapiction. What contrapiction? Any kind of contrapiction, which we saw a moment ago is guaranteed to be false. Why do we want to do this? Because a person who denies a valid argument, earlier we showed that this was a valid argument, right? No worries, Ariana. Earlier we established that it was a valid argument. Anyone who denies a valid argument, that is anyone who takes all of this and plunges it into a cut, will thereby commit themselves to a contradiction if you work out the logical relations between the things they've said. This is why valid arguments matter so much to us philosophers, because not only do they follow from the premises, if you deny them, you're saying a guaranteed falsehood. Let me say that again, because that's philosophically important. valid arguments for us carry so much weight as philosophers for two reasons. The first and most obvious reason is that the conclusion demonstrably follows from the premises. But the second reason is any schmuck who would come in and deny the conclusion of a valid argument would end up forcing themselves into accepting a falsehood, something like C and not C, A and not A, something like that, which we know without taking our goggles off, the world cannot have, right? And that's what we're trying to obtain. Arjun, did that help? And anybody else too? Like, did that reminder of what our goal was, did that help? That's the goal in green. We want to transform all that into a contrapiction. Yeah, cool. All right. And now look at where we're at. We've got people who use the permissions, because what we did was we put this as our starting materials, and we did a couple moves. The first one was double negation and so on. Nav, you're going to jump in. So let me remove all of this. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm going to actually just before I give you the floor, I'm just going to remove this conclusion. So just so that we know that the goal now is not to get the conclusion. So just so we're not confused, I was using the same sheet, right? Yeah, we just want to end up with a contrapiction. Nav, you have the board. What permission you want to use? Tell me the permission first, Nav. Erasure. Erase away, Nav. Say done when you're done. Community, was this a good use of erasure? Was this permitted or not permitted? Not permitted. Why not? You're correct. It wasn't permitted. Why not? And it's no big deal, Nav, right? No big deal. We're learning because it was a shaded area, right? It was on a shaded area. It was on a shaded area. Let me put it back where it was, because if I do the undo, it'll undo what I last did, not what Nav did. Yeah, shaded area. Try again. Nav, you want to try? Oh my God, that's way too fat. Hold on. Yeah, I'm going to set up the Nav. What happens? Let me give you the board, and how about you do undo? So do the undo button, Nav. Click the undo button a couple times, see what happens. Oh, beautiful. All right, so you can undo what you did. Nav, have another go at it. What rule are you using, Nav? Type in which permission? Iteration. All right, cool. Iterate away. Stop done when you're done. Community, was this a permitted use of iteration? Permitted or not permitted? Permitted. Has it really moved us forward, though? Perfectly permitted. But has it moved us forward? Are we getting closer to our goal? Not really. Not really. It's nothing wrong with it. You generated a graph, Nav, and it was permitted. You can totally iterate that. Suggestions, people. What do? We want to get a contrapiction. What Nav did wasn't wrong, but maybe proximity deiteration, someone says. All right. Reese, unless I'm taking deiteration, let's take another volunteer. Reese, you got the board. Reese wants to use the iteration. Reese, do your deiteration. Type in done when you're done. Community, did Reese properly use the iteration? Yes or no? We're almost there, people. We're almost there. Who wants to jump in? Can you iterate with the starting premise? Yeah, there's well, I'm not sure what's the premise anymore. Yeah, we're almost there. Curtis, do you see it? Curtis can go. Ariana did some. All right, Curtis, you got the board. Curtis, tell us what you're going to do. Sure, Curtis, go for it. Curtis has invoked the double cut. Type done when you're done. You didn't quite do it yet. You didn't quite do it. We're going to have to... Ariana, jump in. Ariana, do erasure. Type in erasure and then do it. Clean that up for us, Ariana. Erase that clutter. Don't erase that Q. That's a precious Q. Give me more, erase more clutter. Make it cleaner. You can erase whatever you want. When you do erasure, you could swipe the whole slate clean if you wanted. Good. Are you done, Ariana? Perfect. My friends, did Ariana use erasure correctly? Yes or no? Yeah, you can erase like in one go. You can erase whatever the hell you want, right? Provided that, you know, yeah, cool. What are we looking at? What do we have in front of us? Q and not Q. Ha, 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 ha. So look at this argument now. The argument wasn't only valid because we proved that we could obtain the conclusion by modifying the premises step by step. So let me say that again. That's super important. Not only is the argument valid, we do double down, double verification from two ways here. On the one hand, earlier what we did was in a step-by-step manner where everyone was converging that if we did it right or we did it wrong. Using rules, little tiny baby steps that we know are 100% secure, we strung those together and were able to obtain the conclusion from the premises, right? We were able to obtain that big-ass conclusion from our premises. And not only that, if some schmuck walks in and negates this conclusion, right, but accepts the premises, so if you nod yes to the premise, yet you nod no to the conclusion, you've committed yourself to Q and not Q. And without removing our goggles, we know that this is false. We know the world ain't going to be like this. Whatever Q means, and we don't know and we don't care for the purposes of this manipulation, we don't know and we don't care, we know that this person is saying a falsehood. And the entire goal of existential graphs is what? Right? Let's go back to Peirce and hear it from the horse's mouth. The goal is truth. Remember that big T that we were looking at and aiming for? Peirce has devised a method for us to converge on the truth, right? All we have to do is avoid all danger of transforming the true and the false. So all we do on the sheet of assertion is we remember stuff from the world that we know are true. We plop that in there. And by a rule of transformation, we mean a general permission to make certain transformations under certain circumstances on the ground that such transformation can never transform anything true into anything false. And there's two ways of doing it, direct and indirectly. And now we've learned how to use contrapiction to do indirect derivations. My friend, was this fun? I think it's fun AF. It's so bloody cool. And it's so, there's properties, and we could meditate on this for a couple decades. There's properties about this logic that are different, right? And Nav did a sideways iteration, Oscar. So Oscar asks, why was Nav's move permitted? So let's go over here. All right. So Nav's move was permitted because Nav can always take this, right, and iterate sideways, Oscar. You can decide everything I'm going to do is permitted by sideways iteration. All right. So everything in purple right now is permitted by sideways iteration. Can you see that, Oscar? I'm going to do some more just to show. Said it once, you can say it again. Yeah. Yeah, it was sideways. Nav had put this. I'd put a not Q. Yeah, you can watch the recording. It was on the same level. All that Nav had done was just, you know, basically do this and brought the not Q closer to where we were earlier. That's all that Nav had done, which was not wrong, right? Yeah, no worries. It was needless, but it was not wrong, right? Which can happen, right? If something has been said, it's allowed to be said again. So not Q was on the sheet. It had been said, and just put it over, which sometimes, can make it a little clearer, right? Yeah. Yeah. No worries. No worries. I didn't realize that the negated Q we were using is usable. Everything is usable. It's on the sheet. Everything here, it's all fair game. What's on the sheet of assertion, and I've left myself this made up premise here just so we remind ourselves what we're doing. Yeah. Yeah, no worries. My friends, do you remember this argument? If I take his pawn, then he will either take my knight or he will move his bishop. If he takes my knight, then I will be angry, but his queen will be exposed. If he moves his bishop, then my queen will be exposed. That said, if I don't take his pawn, then my queen will be exposed anyway. Now, at the very least, I'm going to take his pawn, or I'm not going to take it, so either his queen or mine will be exposed. Ariana says, is this part of Peirce packet 7, or is there an 8th one? There's no more Peirce packets for the logic, so what you have is the handouts of practice, Ariana. So what you have is the lectures, yeah, because we're moving into different territory. It just wouldn't make sense to keep hearing Peirce talk about it. Let's actually see it in the flesh, and it needs me to come alive, right? So unless you want to read Logic of the Future, which you have, by the way, huh? Yeah, I've given you 2 free volumes of it. Have fun and have your good luck with that, right? That is not for the faint of heart. Yeah, no worries, because I'm giving you the beginner baby version. So, okay, folks, what's the conclusion of this argument in terms of letters here, right? What's the conclusion? This is a long argument. It's got a conclusion. What's the conclusion? Because I've already symbolized Q or E. Yeah, either Q or E, right? Either Q or E. That's the conclusion, because that's an indicator word here. So, and all of the above is supposed to be the premises, right? So Q or E. That's it. So either his queen or mine will be exposed. My friends, is this a valid argument? Again, I mean, at this point, do we agree? Type agree if you agree. Your mind can't you can't fathom this. This is exceeding the range of your brain. Agree or disagree? There's no way. I don't care if you're a savant. This is exceeding the range of your brain. So what we do is we can use signs, right, that we've learned to domesticate and control to get our brain to be stronger than it actually is. So what do? Well, we transform all of these into graphs, and then we can do what we did today. We're obviously not going to do it, but would you like to see me do it? And then you can play the slow motion version. I'm going to do this in like 2 minutes. All right. So this is how you solve this argument in existential graphs, right? All right. So Shan's interested. Ariana's interested. Here we go. Here's how it's done, right? The first claim is if I take his pawn, then either he will take my knight or he will move his bishop. So if P, then either Q or B. Well, there you have it. If P, then either Q or B. Second premise. If he takes my knight, then I will be angry, but his queen will be exposed. If K, then A and Q. Third premise. If he moves his bishop, then my queen will be exposed. If B, then E. If I don't take his pawn, then my queen will be exposed. So if not P, then E. I am going to take his pawn or I am not going to take it. Either not P or P. Those are our premises in existential graphs. The conclusion is, so either his queen or mine will be exposed, either Q or E. That wasn't too bad. That wasn't too bad. But now what's the game? Ariana, you know 2 games. What's the game? These are your premises, right? And this is your conclusion. What's the game? Direct and indirect. So someone tell me in your own words, what's direct derivation? In your own words, what's a direct derivation? Try to get the conclusion. Yeah. Yeah. And only the 5 permissions. Use the 5, Reese writes it really well. Using the 5 permissions to transform the premises into the conclusion. Exactly. So now the goal is, how do we take all of this? That's the starting materials. Those are the Lego blocks that we have to assemble, right? Like when you buy Legos, you just dump all the Lego blocks on the table. These are the Lego blocks that we have, and we have to transform them into this using only the 5 permissions, right? I've shown you how it's represented into diagrammatic form, right? You can do this as homework for fun, and the solution is going to be what I'm about to show you. I'm going to show it quickly, and it's being recorded. So if you ever want to see the solutions, I invite you to do this on your own. It's hard, all right? But if you want to do it on your own, try, have fun, and use a lot of paper and pencil, because you're going to make mistakes, and you have to toy. And unlike Lego blocks, right? You have to move them around. I'm going to show you the solution. Is everyone ready to see a direct derivation of this? If you're ready, say good to go or yes. All right. I'm going to flash through the slides fairly rapidly, and then it's being recorded. And at your leisure, you can go back and you can see the solution. So additional practice for you, and here's the solution. Those are my premises. I remove a double cut. This. That's my conclusion. You can watch this in reruns, right? That took me 20 seconds to show and a couple hours to figure out, right? Just so you know, that took me a couple hours to figure out. All right. So it's not something you do in a 15-minute quiz. All right. But what do we do in a 15-minute quiz? The easy stuff that we did at the beginning. All right. So what do you do now? Well, we're going to look at the clock and we're going to do the quiz. And you have a bunch of stuff that you can practice on. I've put the handouts there. It's underneath where the packets would be, because clearly now we got to work with something different than Peirce packets. And you've got the solutions for the ones I'm giving you this week will appear on Sunday. I want to give you an incentive to practice on your own before the solutions appear. There's a big one. I've put the extra handout, has a really big specimen. If someone wants to impress me and you think you did it before the solutions appear on Sunday, you got 3 days to try to email me. I'm not sure how, but like pictures of your images, email me your solution. So if you want to get bragging rights, you have until Sunday to show me that you did it on your own for the big specimen. I gave you this big, scary specimen. Next week, we do philosophy of science. We're about to do the quiz, but before we look at the clock, is everyone crystal clear on what we're expected to do now? If it's clear, type it clear. If you have a question, ask your question. And I want to give, and this is before we say goodbyes, a huge shout out while I'm setting up the share screen for the clock. Vera writes, can we move back and forth during the quiz? Yeah, it allows you to go back a question and then you click submit for all of your answers, Vera. So for the quiz, the way the format is, you get to type in all your questions, and if you're unsure, you can always go back, and only when you're absolutely happy, you click submit for the whole package of answers. Vera, does that answer your question? Yeah, good question. All right, so I'm looking at the time right now, and it is 12:02. How about we give ourselves a little bit of a break, and we start the quiz at 12:10. So if that's clear, type in 12:10. Quiz starts at 12:10. Type in the chat bar 12:10. Enough time for you to go to the washroom, get in the zone, and the quiz will start at 12:10. Other than that, let's say goodbye, get the hell out, and good luck for the quiz, and I'll talk to you next week. We had a great class. That worked really well. Bye, Sundesh. You did great. That was fun. Navdeep, take care. Oh, and Curtis, bye. Take care. Go ace that quiz. Bye, Ariana. Bye, Shing. Bye, Kai. Bye, Nav. Hannah, take care. Sonia, take care. See you next week. Some philosophy of science next week. Steven, see ya. Meanwhile, I'm going to go and set this up. Andrew, take care. You were very brave today. You did exceedingly well. Have fun with the quiz. Vera, have a good week. And have fun with the homeworks. They're challenging, and I've made it such that there's a little more than, like if you like a good channel. Have a good day, Ritu. Satsrikal, my friends. All right, let's bloody do this. Let me set that up. On that note, my friends, I'm going to stop the recording. I hope you had a good time. Good luck with the quiz, and I'll talk to you next week.